Hello America, how are you? Hope you people are doing well. Myself, Naman Verma from India, and today I'm going to reacting on a video having title Real Reason Why US Can't Use All Its Oil. So let's watch this video and then we'll discuss about it. So this is the video of channel named The Infographics Show. So to subscribe this channel and subscribe me to hit the bell icon, follow me on Insta and Facebook. The links are given below in the description box. So without any delay, let's get started, buddy.
America pumps out over 12 million barrels of oil per day,
Ooh,
earning its spot
12
as the
million barrels.
largest producer on the planet. So despite being the top producer, America is also the second largest importer of oil. We'll explain
Second largest
exactly
importer.
why on today's episode of the Infographics Show. The U.S. can't use all its oil. Oil is the world's lifeblood, and the United States is top dog when it comes to production. On average, the U.S. produces around 13 billion barrels of crude oil per day,
Oh dear,
with some
13
record-breaking
billion
days in
barrels.
late 2024
Per day.
reaching 13.5 million barrels. That adds up to a staggering 4.7 billion barrels per year, enough to fill a Super Bowl-sized stadium nearly every 2 days. Yet America consumes far more than it produces, around 20.4 million barrels of oil per day, or 7.4 billion barrels per year. It might seem ridiculous then that the US doesn't use all of its own oil, but instead exports roughly half of the oil it pumps to other countries. The answer, as usual, traces back to decisions made decades ago, ones that left future generations to deal with the consequences.
There is some
To
strategy
understand
behind.
why, we have to understand the oil life cycle itself first.
Yeah.
You can't just take oil from the ground and stick it in your car. Well, technically you can, but it's not going to do much but make your local mechanic very wealthy. Oil needs refining before it becomes anything
sure.
useful. That means investing in refineries to process raw petroleum into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other
Raw oil,
essential
conversion
products.
of raw oil.
The first step in refining oil is heating it and sending it into a massive distillation column where it naturally separates based on weight. Lighter components like gasoline rise to the top, while heavier fuels like diesel sink to the bottom. This process produces a variety of essential products. Gases like propane and butane are used for heating and cooking. Naphtha
cooking.
for gasoline and plastics, kerosene, which is refined into jet fuel, diesel and gas oil for trucks and heavy machinery. The residue at the bottom was once dumped into waterways, but now it's used as ship fuel and road asphalt. The
Yeah.
problem is that oil naturally contains heavier products that aren't as useful as gasoline. To fix this, refineries use a process called cracking to break down large molecules into smaller, more valuable ones.
Smaller,
Additionally, low-quality gasoline can be reformed by rearranging its molecular structure and boosting octane levels, making it more
Oh, dear.
efficient at powering engines. At some point in the past, people decided that maybe it wasn't a good idea to let oil companies literally smog the entire country with lead and other incredibly harmful chemicals. This meant treating processes were improved and additives like lead were banned. The treating process
sure.
helped to remove impurities from the fuel that improves the quality of the fuel, but also makes it slightly less catastrophic than it already is for the environment. This process removes sulfur, nitrogen, and heavy metals from
sulfur,
oil,
nitrogen, and heavy
making
metals
modern
from oil,
gasoline
okay.
much cleaner than past fuels. Processed fuels are blended to improve performance, stability, or in the case of jet fuel, to ensure it only burns under precise conditions, making it safer for aviation. Oil refining is a complex, costly process, and
for
refineries
sure.
are incredibly expensive to build, operate, and maintain.
Incredibly
And it's not
expensive.
just about
Definitely,
money,
no
it's
doubt
about
about it.
time. When a refinery is built today, the
Money and
expectation
time
is
both.
it won't start refining fuel for nearly a decade. The problem with American refineries is that
Decade.
most of them are the wrong type. Decades ago, oil companies focused their investments on building refineries along the Gulf Coast, designed specifically to process heavy crude from Venezuela, Canada, and the Middle East. These regions
Okay.
could pump oil all day long, but the real challenge wasn't extraction, it was refining. Globally,
Yeah,
the world
not
produces
extraction,
more oil
but
than it
refine.
can refine, creating a massive backlog in the industry. That oil has to be transported to refineries, which need to occasionally shut down for complicated maintenance.
Transportation, yeah.
Overall, refining capacity is barely keeping up with oil production, though a major expansion is expected over the next 4 years. Refining is an incredibly complex and expensive
For
process,
sure.
and
I know
historically,
that.
only wealthy nations could afford the massive investments needed to build and maintain these facilities. With this in mind, American oil companies decided to construct refineries designed for the specific types of crude oil
Yeah,
being
exactly.
imported from overseas, rather than refining lighter domestic oil. And this means
Oh.
modern Americans are stuck with the wrong equipment. Oil comes in different types depending on its origin. The US primarily produces sweet crude, but decades ago, corporations built infrastructure to refine sour crude instead. Sour
Oh.
crude is the workhorse of oil types With a sulfur content above 0.5%,
Ooh.
it's harder and more expensive to refine into lighter fuels. This low-grade oil is mostly used for heavy machinery and is primarily produced in Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Alberta, the Gulf of America, formerly the Gulf of Mexico, and the Middle East. At first,
Okay.
building U.S. refining capacity for this heavy crude made sense. But when domestic oil production surged, the U.S. realized it had a refinery problem. The U.S. does have some sour crude deposits, but it also sits on massive reserves of sweet crude oil. While sour crude is the workhorse of oils, sweet crude, with its 0.42% or lower sulfur content, is the premium grade. It is high
Oh.
quality, efficient, and high in demand. Refineries prefer sweet crude because it's easier to process and it yields more high-value petroleum products like gasoline, heating oil, and jet fuel. But America is incapable of refining all the superior oil that it produces every year.
So why it isn't capable? So if you people comment below, I will definitely react on part two. Write your perception in the comment section because your perception matters too. And in my opinion, crude oil. America produces a large amount of crude oil, but the refinery process is very, very expensive, undoubtedly very expensive, and the transportation cost and you know the cost of refining that crude oil is very, very high. You cannot use the crude oil directly. The crude oil should undergo the process of refining. After then, it is then converted into diesel, petrol, or kerosene or whatever it is. So it is actually a very expensive process. So that is why I think America decided to import the refined crude oil, not crude oil, refined oil. Not US only. There are so many countries like India. We also import crude oil, I think, from Russia, or I think from Russia, majorly from Russia, because Russia provides us the refined oil in the cheapest rate. But no any other country other than the Russia can provide us in such an efficient rate. So that is why uh, we prefer Russia. I know. So that's all for today's video. And what is your perception on this? Please tell me in the comment section. What do you people think that what is the reason behind it that America is not using its a huge amount of crude oil? Why America imports the oil? So please tell me in the comment section that what is your personal perception. So that's all for today's video. We'll meet you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. It's me, Naman Verma from India, signing off.